1978, Hubbard was in La Quinta and he was making movies. And he had a young assistant who'd been on the Apollo with Hubbard since he was 12 years old, a young man by the name of David Miscavige. In 1978, too, 9 were indicted, including Mary Sue Hubbard. And the judge said, "The crime committed by these defendants is of a breadth and space previously unheard of. No building, office, desk, or file was safe from their snooping and prying. No individual or organization was free from their despicable conspiratorial minds." Hubbard was really quite worried. What was going to happen to his wife? Would he be indicted? He even went so far as to send a loyal follower to his wife to ask her for a divorce. He probably didn't need to worry. He was not indicted. 9 pleaded guilty. And the court unsealed the records, and we obtained a lot of the information that we have. Those records now, again, are sealed. Everything was falling apart. And in February of 1980, L. Ron Hubbard disappeared with Pat and Annie Broker, and he was never seen again. In 1981, messages were received by people in the upper echelons of Scientology requesting their resignation, and they did. And by 1982, David Mayo said, quote, "It's like the Lord of the Flies. The kids, fanatics, all of them, have taken over." Rehabilitation Project force was in even greater force then. And if you did anything with the technology, or if you didn't cough up your fair share of the money, you were in big trouble. Also, now we had finance police and the inspector general. New organizations. And it looked as though Pat and Annie Broker and David Miscavige were in charge. All of this is possible, too, because of a fellow by the name of Jerry Armstrong. Jerry researched and wanted truly to do a good biography of Hubbard. And he did a lot of research between 1980 and 82. He couldn't reconcile what he was reading with what the story, the party line was from Scientology. And he fought for his right to keep this material. Scientology desperately wanted it back. And at the end of the court proceedings in 1984, Judge Breckenridge said, "The organization clearly is schizophrenic and paranoid, and this bizarre combination seems to be a reflection of its founder. The evidence portrays a man who has been virtually a pathological liar when it comes to his history, background, and achievements. A man gripped by egoism, greed, avarice, lust for power, vindictiveness, and aggressiveness against persons perceived by him to be disloyal or hostile." On January 24th, 1986, L. Ron Hubbard died. Shortly before his death, he wrote, "The Sea Org and the future. I, LRH, Commodore, am hereby assuming the rank of Admiral. The rank of Commodore is retired from active service in the Sea Organization at this time. As we move on up the track, the Commodore rank will be reinstated as needed. A new rank of Loyal Officer is created directly above the rank of Captain. Ann Broker is hereby promoted as the second, Pat Broker is hereby promoted to the first Loyal Officer. Annie Broker is hereby promoted as the second Loyal Officer." And he goes on, "I'll be scouting the way and doing the very first port survey missions. I expect your continuing backup. You've got a little under $1 billion left in your current hitch, and it is hoped you will sign up again. Veterans are valuable." So there it is. You know what to do. You know how to do it. Hold the form of the SO. You've got the watch. We will meet again later. 1986, Scientology settled 27 of their lawsuits and sealed the records. How do you get into Scientology? Well, at this point, you could take an IQ test. You could take a personality test. You could read Dianetics. You can get involved in any of the myriad of wise management programs for businesses. Mostly they've been going, it seems to me, to dentists and chiropractors. Or you can read an ad in the paper. There was one in the San Jose Mercury News and one in the Chronicle offering jobs for counselors. The pay on that, as I recall, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 a week, and you got to work from 10 in the morning until 11 at night. And you could take a Scientology course or two if you wanted to pay over a little bit of your salary. You could also get into it through Narconon or the Purification Rundown. I thought it would be important for you to know a little bit more about the Purification Rundown because it was in the news recently. Channel 2 did an expose. It was developed in 1977 as a program for healthy living. But as with other things, like the e-meter, just having it there was not good enough. It had to be very special. And Ron wrote about it. In 1973, he wrote, someone got the Nobel Prize for curing insanity with niacin. And I read that and I thought, that's interesting. I wonder who that was. So I got my little encyclopedia out and I looked at 1973 and I think something's wrong with my encyclopedia. I mean, I don't think Ron could be wrong. The Physiology and Medicine Prize that year went to Conrad Lenz for his individual and social behavior patterns. You remember him. He was the guy that became a mama to a flock of geese and they followed him around forever. And in chemistry, the prize was for auto exhaust pollution. Well, I don't know. Maybe I got the year wrong. But the Purification Rundown was basically exercise, a good diet, although they didn't prescribe the diet, lots and lots of vitamins, the sauna, good oil to replace the bad oil you were getting rid of, and niacin. Niacin was supposed to show you, demonstrate, as you flush, the poisons that you have in your system. And Scientology admits that everyone does flush when they take niacin. And you do get used to it. This now in Scientology is their Narconon program, and it seems to be that they want everyone to take this program as they work their way up in Scientology. As I said, Channel 2's Ross Becker did a story on it. The California Board of Quality Medical Assurance is investigating it now. Louisiana firemen who had been exposed to PCBs somehow were talked into taking the course and spending $200,000 of Louisiana's money to get PCBs out of their system via the Purification Rundown. But one of the doctors interviewed by Channel 2 called it scientific gobbledygook. The goal of Scientology is to get you on the bridge. It's a very complicated program, highly complicated series of courses, and you can take either the training courses or the processing courses. They are very, very, very expensive. The current legal actions with Scientology are, just to mention a few, the Church of Scientology with David Mayo. The basic dispute there is, can religious doctrines be trademarked? Can you have a doctrine and you say this is mine and nobody else can have it or talk about it? The Larry Wallersheim case is Larry Wallersheim sued Scientology and was granted a $30 million award. Now in California you have to post a significant amount of that award, not the whole thing I believe, in order to appeal. Scientology said, well, we don't have that money, we can't do that. And they went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said, well, the judge has the right to require it, pay it. You know. So now what they are doing is challenging the law that requires an organization to post bond before they can appeal. There's another case, a wrongful death case against Scientology filed by a family. Mother had an appointment to meet her son at Scientology. She called him and was told that they couldn't find him. He was lost. The next word that she had was that he was dead. Scientology, for some unexplainable reason, waited for an hour and a half before they called the rescue squad. And there's a class action suit which has been filed against Scientology, and they're suing for somewhere around $1 or $2 billion. They want to recover the monies that they've spent. They wouldn't have spent them if they knew there were all these illegal activities going on. They want wages for the time worked, and they want most of all to get their folders back, because the folders contain all of their secret information about themselves that can and have in the past been used against others. Of course, the IRS is still trying to collect. Most recently, California and Missouri courts produced conflicting decisions. Missouri said that yes, Scientology courses should be deductible, and California said no. They did lose their bid last November for all of the IRS records. And now they're working on Senate Bill number 1 here in California. And let me politic for a minute. Senate Bill number 1 is nicknamed the Clergy Malpractice Bill. And what Senate Bill number 1 would do would be to say that if anyone sued a religion or a clergyman, they could not sue for punitive damages. Therefore, the Wallersheim case could not have happened, and there's another case, the Nally case, that is figured in that decision too. Scientology claims it has changed. Those things happened 10 years ago. It wasn't so bad. A few zealots, we got rid of them. There's no harassment anymore. Ben Corridan might disagree. He couldn't put a volcano on the cover of his book. Russell Miller, who wrote Barefaced Messiah, was constantly threatened with litigation. There were many attempts to discredit it. Someone tried to call him a murderer, and he wasn't even there when the person that he supposedly killed died. There were suits over copyrighted passages, but the court in Britain did fine for Miller and the book was published. There are no more harassments, but the BBC did a documentary of Scientology. Several from this area spoke up. One of them had eggs thrown at her house. Another was delivered a great big chunk of maggots. Has Scientology changed? Can Scientology change? What do you think? And now I pause from a commercial message from our sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla, for really a talk that was superbly researched. Yes, and it just occurred to me that the Southern California skeptics in the wrong business. And since we are in the wrong business, we will pass a basket around to help us carry on our work. And Al, would you like to take over from me for the question?
We'll also collect, if you have questions. If you have questions, please write them down and we will send people up to collect them and answer them in just a moment. Anyone has any questions? Just hand them
Priscilla, have you been attacked for your material?
No.
Second question, what has Scientology done to you in terms of intimidation?
Nothing.
Do you know anything about, quote, Rama, unquote, whose ads have appeared in the Los Angeles Times, California magazine, etc.? This headquarters are now in Palo Alto.
Rama, I believe, is really named Frederick Lenz. He was a follower of Sri Chinmoy and had a group for a while by the name of Lakshmi. What's the name of the group now? No, he was Atmananda under Sri Chinmoy. I don't know what... Rama is what he goes by now. Yes, I am aware of him.
60 Minutes is supposed to do an expose on him in February.
Did you all hear that? 60 Minutes is supposed to do an expose in February.
The Anderson report, was it John Anderson, the Australian philosopher?
I can't remember his first name. He was someone who was appointed by Australia to do this investigation. I think his name was John, but I don't remember, and I don't think he was a philosopher.
A serious question. My wife left me to become a Scientologist. Is there any way to get her back? What do you recommend?
That's a tough one. If you can keep communication open, there's always help. And there are people who will do counseling. It's very, very, very difficult. There are fewer and fewer people who will do Scientology counseling, but I do know that there are people who will do counseling. Here in Los Angeles, we have one of the 2 cult clinics in the country. It's non-sectarian, non-denominational, but it is operated by the Jewish Federation, and it's superb. And it is to counsel cult members and their families, and it is a wonderful operation. The other one is in New York City.
Could you please repeat that name again? The local council.
The Cult Clinic. It's in conjunction with the Jewish Federation in downtown Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard.
Let me say there are several questions on the same topic, so I will not ask those. Since they are all asking essentially the same thing. The next question is, why and on what basis do you refer to, quote, LifeSpring, unquote, as therapy cult?
LifeSpring is an interesting history. LifeSpring, Est, and Sci World all grew out of the same organization. That is William Penpatrick's Mind Dynamics, or leadership training. Penpatrick worked with Werner Erhard, really his name is Jack Rosenberg, who founded Est, and John Hanley, who started LifeSpring. And they had this thing called the pit. And the leadership training was to put the person in the middle of a circle, see what they could do to break that one. Basically, the goal of LifeSpring, as many of those mass therapy groups, is really to break the person. Some people do feel a kind of freeing. Some people do feel a kind of freeing from the Dianetic auditing that Hubbard suggests. But it can be harmful to people. I object strenuously to their not telling you what's going to happen to you. I think I would have absolutely no problem with it if they would say up front, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is what's going to happen to you. And if you want to have that done, fine.
Do sharecroppers meet the criteria for, quote, commercial cult, unquote? After all, the crew chief dependence relationship exists, between quotes. If not, where is that the distinction? In short, isn't an army a cult by your broadly inclusive definition?
There are similarities throughout life. Sharecroppers, yes, it's possible. There's manipulation there. In the army, yes, there is manipulation. You have to take a young man who has probably only stepped on a few ants in his life and turn that person into someone who will defend their country and die for it. There has to be manipulation.
Have you researched Scientology's attempts to get a foothold in science fiction?
Not really, but I have had some people tell me that they were required to buy enormous supplies of battlefield earth to make it look as though they were really selling very, very well.
What is the connection between Scientology and the Writers of the Future contest? Okay, I don't know, maybe there was something I didn't realize. What is the origin of the word Dianetics? What is the American St. Hill organization, if you know the answer to that?
I don't know the origin of the word Dianetics. The American St. Hill organization is just another one of Scientology's organizations. There are so many of them now. But it's one of the auspices they give courses under the American St. Hill organization.
They do the advanced stuff there.
Yeah, that's right. They do the advanced stuff there. Thank you.
Is Parsons the same that supported Frank Molina, the founder of JPL? Yes?
I'm from New York. Yes?
Yes. Thank you very much. That's good.
They don't tell you what you're getting into.
Who runs Scientology today, and do they pay income taxes?
No, they do not pay income taxes, and as far as we can tell, it's Pat and Annie Broker and David Miscavige who are primarily the ones running Scientology.
There is one question I cannot read, so I will avoid it because too many words are missing that I can decipher. How much money does it take to attain the highest level?
How much money do you want to spend? Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. I was just looking at a brochure, and 12 and a half hours of intensive auditing are $10,000 for each 12 and a half hour block. It's really very, very, very expensive. I spoke with a young woman who had been in Scientology for 10 years. She'd gotten off pretty cheap. She had spent $30,000, and she had not risen to the OT3 level, and my telling her OT3 over the telephone was the first time that she'd ever heard it.
And the last question is creationist a destructive cult?
Not per se. But I would like to, as long as you've given me the platform, just a few minutes. There is a segment of the fundamentalist movement which we call shepherding. In shepherding, no man, no woman, especially no woman, can lead their life without an elder, a guide, a cover, a shepherd to tell them what to do. And in many, many of the groups, this becomes very quickly very abusive. And the elder tells the person what to do 24 hours a day. And in these groups, the elder has an elder who has an elder who has an elder. And it's a very neat pyramid, and it is very excellent for control. That is why these guys can turn out in elections so quickly. All they need to get in touch with is the man at the top. And some of the men at the top control 12 churches. And you can turn out the votes. So, no, it's not a destructive cult, but there are segments of it that are, and they are well mobilized. And I thank you.
We're going to just stop the press. Last question. What actually goes on inside the building on Sunset Boulevard, and why are they wearing uniforms?
There are all kinds of auditing sessions for hours. You know, you sit across the table from somebody, you hold on to the cans, and the meter does this, and you are asked question after question after question. People live there and take Scientology courses. The significance of the uniforms, when Hubbard took to the sea, he began dressing his people in uniforms. I guess his dream was always to be the Commodore, and now he's the Admiral of his own Navy. And he just dressed them that way out of preference. I thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank Priscilla Coates for a superb session, and this sets the kind of standards we've been trying to maintain. Before our final statement, Al, do you would like to say something?
I would hope that you come and visit our book table, because we have lots of new titles, including just a few limited copies, hard to obtain, of L. Ron Hubbard, Messiah or Madman. And you can read about it all here. And lots of great stuff. I would like to say that the Caltech, in supporting the skeptics monthly at these in our lecture series, asked us to have our speaker meet with the Caltech students and faculty at 4 o'clock. And for those members of you who it is unfortunately open to just Caltech students and faculty and staff, it will be in Club Room 1 at 4 o'clock. And we welcome you there. There will be refreshments. Okay, but please visit our literature table. Take the information on the skeptics.
1 second, please. I'd like to say one more final comment. The skeptics, the Southern California skeptics, have reached the level of interest and support because of people like Al Seckel and Pat Lindsay and all the volunteers. I'd like to thank them for their effort. Thank you, and the session is over.